I never imagined my parents would betray me over a house. After years of saving every penny from my engineering job, I finally purchased my dream home last year, a modest three-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. My older brother, Jake, had always been the golden child receiving endless support while I struggled alone. When my parents showed up, unannounced with documents demanding I sign over my house to Jake because his growing family needed it more, I was speechless. Their eyes held no love, only cold entitlement. Refusing them unleashed a nightmare I never saw coming. Before I dive into how my own parents tried to steal what I worked for, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, and subscribe if you have ever had to protect yourself from toxic family members. Family dinners at my parents' house were always an exercise in self-restraint. From my earliest memories, the pattern was clear: Jake could do no wrong, while I could never quite measure up. My father, Richard, a successful business owner, and my mother, Susan, a former real estate agent turned homemaker, created a household where achievements were measured on different scales depending on which child accomplished them. When Jake received a B- in high school math, my parents celebrated with ice cream. When I brought home straight, as they merely nodded and asked why I was not participating in more extracurricular activities. Jake received a car for his 16th birthday, a red Mustang that he promptly crashed 3 months later. I worked weekends at the local grocery store to buy a used Honda at 19. These differences extended into our adult lives in ways that became increasingly difficult to ignore. Jake followed our father into his construction business, being groomed to take over, despite showing minimal interest or aptitude. I pursued engineering against my parents' wishes, putting myself through college with scholarships and part-time jobs. After graduation, I secured a position at a respected firm specializing in sustainable building design. While my career advanced steadily, Jake floundered in the family business, making costly mistakes that our father quietly covered. At 31, after years of saving and living modestly, I achieved what felt impossible growing up: buying my own home. It was not extravagant, a 1,970 ranch-style house with good bones in a neighborhood with excellent schools. The pride I felt signing those papers is something I will never forget. For once, I had created something entirely mine, without family interference or judgment. Jake, meanwhile, had married young to his high school girlfriend, Maria. They had 3 children in quick succession and lived in a rental property owned by our parents. Despite being given a management position in our father's company with a generous salary, Jake consistently lived beyond his means. Designer clothes, luxury cars, and expensive vacations left little for savings or investment. I had been in my new home for just 6 months when my parents made their first visit. I spent days preparing deep cleaning, arranging fresh flowers, and cooking my mother's favorite lasagna. I hoped, perhaps naively, that this milestone might finally earn their genuine approval. The visit started pleasantly enough. My mother complimented the kitchen layout, while my father nodded approvingly at the solid construction. Over dinner, the conversation shifted unexpectedly. My mother mentioned that Jake and Maria were struggling in their cramped rental. Their oldest was entering middle school, and they wanted to be in a better district. My father added that the property management business was becoming too much hassle for them at their age. This house would be perfect for them, my mother said, her tone casual, as if discussing the weather. 3 bedrooms, good schools, nice yard for the kids. I nodded, thinking they were simply observing similarities to what Jake and Maria were seeking. Yeah, that is why I bought it. The neighborhood is great. My parents exchanged a look I had seen countless times growing up, always preceding some disappointment. My father cleared his throat. We have been thinking, Alex. You are single-focused on your career. You do not need all this space. A knot formed in my stomach as I began to understand where the conversation was heading. My mother reached into her purse and pulled out a folder containing what I would later recognize as property transfer documents. Their eyes held no love, only cold entitlement. Refusing them unleashed a nightmare I never saw coming. Before I dive into how my own parents tried to steal what I worked for, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, and subscribe if you have ever had to protect yourself from toxic family members. Family dinners at my parents' house were always an exercise in self-restraint. They had 3 children in quick succession and lived in a rental property owned by our parents. Despite being given a management position in our father's company with a generous salary, Jake consistently lived beyond his means. Designer clothes, luxury cars, and expensive vacations left little for savings or investment. I had been in my new home for just 6 months when my parents made their first visit. My father's expression hardened. "You have always been selfish, Alex. Family helps family. Your brother has 3 children to consider." That dinner ended with raised voices and slammed doors. My parents left with the unsigned documents, but their parting words haunted me. Think about it. Blood is thicker than water. Do not be the one who puts a material possession above family. In the days that followed, text messages and calls poured in from both parents, and eventually Jake himself, alternating between guilt trips and veiled threats about how my selfishness would affect my relationship with my niece's nephew. My mother mentioned repeatedly how my grandparents would be ashamed of my behavior, invoking the memory of people who had always shown me unconditional love. What they failed to understand was that their demand had crossed a line from which there was no easy return. For the first time, I saw with complete clarity how little they respected me and my achievements. The house was not just a material possession. It represented years of hard work, sacrifice, and dreams they had never bothered to acknowledge. What began as an outrageous request soon escalated into a coordinated campaign of manipulation. The week after the disastrous dinner, my mother began stopping by, unannounced, often bringing my nieces and nephew. During these visits, she would make pointed comments about how much the children loved the backyard, or how the kitchen was perfect for family gatherings. "Imagine Thanksgiving here with everyone together," she would say wistfully, while I silently calculated how many holidays I had spent alone because Jake's family commitments always took precedence. My father took a different approach. He called with concerns about the structural integrity of the house, questioning whether I had conducted proper inspections before purchase. "These older homes often have foundation issues," he warned, despite having praised the construction during his visit. Jake knows construction. He could spot problems you might miss. Jake himself vacillated between playing good cop and joining the pressure campaign. Some days, he would call apologetically, claiming our parents had gone too far, but still emphasizing how perfect my house would be for his family. Other days, he would send angry text messages accusing me of choosing 4 walls over family and denying his children opportunities they deserved. The situation reached a new level when my parents began bringing potential solutions to make their plan more palatable. My mother arrived one afternoon with a new set of documents. "We have been thinking," she began, settling at my kitchen table, uninvited. "You could retain technical ownership, but sign a long-term lease to Jake for a nominal fee. This way, you maintain your investment while helping family." When I pointed out that this arrangement would effectively make me homeless while receiving no mortgage relief, she dismissed my concerns. "You could easily rent a small apartment. Your lifestyle does not require much space." My father suggested I could move into their guest room temporarily until I found new housing. The fact that I might not want to live like a teenager at 31 seemed inconceivable to him. When I firmly refused these compromises, their tactics became more underhanded. I began noticing small disturbances around my house. A window left unlocked that I always secured papers on my desk, rearranged the spare key, missing from its hiding place. Initially, I dismissed these as my own forgetfulness, but a growing sense of unease prompted me to install a basic security system with cameras. 3 weeks after our initial confrontation, I returned from a 2-day work conference to find several items out of place. Reviewing the security footage revealed something chilling: my parents had entered my home while I was away. The video showed them methodically searching through my office, focusing particularly on the filing cabinet where I kept important documents. Confronting them about this invasion yielded only defensive justifications. "We were just checking on your house," my father claimed. "As experienced homeowners, we wanted to make sure everything was in order while you were traveling." By going through my personal files, I asked incredulously. "We were looking for the home inspection report," my mother replied smoothly. "We are concerned about potential issues you might have overlooked." Their explanations rang hollow, particularly when I discovered my birth certificate and some financial documents were missing. When I demanded their return, my parents feigned ignorance. The next blow came from an unexpected source. My loan officer called to inform me that someone had contacted the bank inquiring about the details of my mortgage, claiming to be me. The bank, following protocol, had requested identifying information that the impersonator could not provide. "We wanted to alert you to potential identity theft," the loan officer explained. Alarmed, I placed fraud alerts on my credit and accounts. I also consulted an attorney who advised documenting all interactions with my family and securing my important documents in a safe deposit box. Following this advice, I requested copies of my property records from the county clerk's office. What I discovered sent ice through my veins. There was a recently filed quitclaim deed transferring my property to Jake with what appeared to be my signature. The notary stamp belonged to a friend of my mother's from her real estate days. With shaking hands, I called my attorney, who immediately recognized the seriousness of the situation. "This is forgery and fraud," she stated flatly after reviewing the documents. "You need to file a police report immediately." Even faced with this evidence, a part of me hesitated. These were my parents, the people who had raised me. Could I really involve law enforcement? That moment of doubt vanished when I received an email from my homeowner's insurance company confirming my request to change the policyholder name to Jake. Someone had not only forged my signature, but was systematically attempting to transfer all aspects of home ownership without my consent. The realization that my own family was willing to commit crimes to take what was rightfully mine crystallized something within me. This was no longer about a house. This was about recognizing and finally standing against a lifetime of being devalued and manipulated. Filing a police report against my own parents was the hardest thing I had ever done. I sat in a sterile interview room at the local police station, hands trembling as I presented the evidence, the forged quitclaim deed, security footage of my parents searching my home emails, confirming unauthorized attempts to change my home, homeowner's insurance, and the bank's report of attempted identity theft. The detective assigned to my case, a woman in her 40s named Detective Ramirez, reviewed everything with a neutral expression that gave away nothing. When she finally spoke, her words were measured but direct. "Mr. Collins, what you have presented constitutes several serious crimes: forgery, attempted fraud, breaking and entering, and identity theft. Are you certain you want to press charges? These could result in significant legal consequences for your parents." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Yes, I understand the implications, but they have left me no choice." Detective Ramirez nodded. "We will need to interview all parties involved and gather additional evidence. I should warn you, this may cause irreparable damage to your family relationships." The damage was done when they decided to steal my house. I replied, a strange calm settling over me as I finally acknowledged the truth. The investigation moved quickly. My parents' friend, the notary, who had stamped the forged document, immediately cooperated with police. When confronted, admitting that my mother had assured her I had signed the document, but was too busy to appear in person. This critical piece of testimony, along with the security footage and document trail, led to arrest warrants for both my parents. I was not present when they were taken into custody, but Jake called me raging and incredulous. "What the hell have you done?" he shouted. They are being treated like criminals. They committed crimes, Jake, I responded, surprised by my own composure. It is a family matter, he insisted. We could have worked this out privately. I tried that approach. They responded by forging my signature and breaking into my home. His voice dropped to a threatening whisper. You will regret this. No one in the family will ever speak to you again. Is that supposed to be a threat or a promise? I asked before ending the call. The reality of what was happening hit me fully that evening, as I sat alone in my kitchen, the same space where weeks earlier my parents had demanded I surrender my home. The house felt different now, tainted by their betrayal, but also somehow more definitively mine. I had defended it, and in doing so, had finally defended myself. My parents were released on bail the following day, with conditions prohibiting them from contacting me or coming near my property. Their attorney immediately reached out to mine, floating the possibility of dropping the charges in exchange for a family reconciliation. My attorney, a no-nonsense woman named Diane, relayed the message with raised eyebrows. They seem to think this is a misunderstanding that can be smoothed over, she said. I explained the evidence is substantial, and charges have been filed. The decision to pursue or drop them now rests with the district attorney, not you. That same evening, texts began arriving from extended family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, most of whom I had only interacted with at occasional holiday gatherings. The messages ranged from confused, there must be some mistake, to accusatory. How could you do this to your own parents? It became clear that my parents were controlling the narrative, positioning themselves as victims of an ungrateful child. Jake's wife, Maria, showed up at my door unannounced 2 days later, the first time she had ever visited without my brother. Her usual composed demeanor was replaced with evident distress. This has to stop, she said, as soon as I let her in. Your parents are devastated. Your father's business clients are hearing about this. Do you know what this could do to their reputation? What about what they tried to do to me? I asked. Maria looked away. They were only trying to help us. We need a bigger place for the kids. They got carried away. Carried away, I repeated incredulously. They committed fraud and tried to steal my house. She sighed, finally meeting my eyes. Jake does not know I am here. Things are not good with us right now. This whole situation has put incredible stress on our marriage. For the first time, I glimpsed another dimension to the family dynamic. Did you know what they were planning? I asked quietly. Maria hesitated before answering. Not the legal documents or entering your home, but I knew they were pressuring you about the house. I told Jake it was wrong, but... She trailed off. But Jake always does what they want. I finished for her. She nodded slowly. This time it has gone too far. But please think about dropping the charges. They are family despite everything. After she left, I sat on my front porch for a long time, watching the neighborhood children play as evening settled. The weight of family expectation had been so normalized that even now, faced with criminal behavior, I was being asked to prioritize my parents' well-being over justice, over my own security and peace of mind. The district attorney decided to pursue the case, offering my parents a plea deal to avoid trial. The terms included probation, community service, financial restitution, and mandatory counseling. The alternative was facing the charges in court with potential jail time if convicted. My parents, on advice from their attorney, initially rejected the deal, apparently believing they could win in court or that I would eventually cave and recant my statements. Reality hit hard when their attorney reviewed all the evidence with them. The paper trail was damning. The testimony from the notary was clear. The security footage was unambiguous. Facing these facts, they finally accepted the plea deal, but not before making one last attempt to manipulate the situation. My father called from an unknown number, bypassing my call blocking. "Alex, this plea deal will ruin us," he said without preamble. "Your mother will lose her real estate license. My business will suffer. Is that what you want?" What I wanted was to be respected as an adult who earned his home, I replied. What I wanted was parents who would be proud of me instead of trying to take what I achieved. We made mistakes, he conceded, though his tone lacked genuine remorse. But this punishment is excessive. We need you to tell the DA you want leniency. The consequences you are facing are the direct result of your actions, I said. Not mine. His voice hardened. So that is it. Years of raising you, supporting you, and this is how you repay us. By destroying our lives over a misunderstanding. It was not a misunderstanding, Dad. It was a deliberate attempt to take something that did not belong to you. And as for supporting me, I put myself through college, bought my own cars, and purchased this house without a penny from either of you. Meanwhile, you have given Jake everything. The silence that followed told me my words had hit home. When he finally spoke again, his voice had lost its manipulative edge, replaced with something that sounded almost like defeat. We always thought you were the strong one, he said quietly, that you did not need us the way Jake did. Everyone needs supportive parents, I replied. I just learned to live without them. He asked again if I would speak to the DA on their behalf. I told him I would think about it, then ended the call. True to my word, I did think about it, considered what it would mean to intervene on their behalf, whether mercy might begin a healing process. But I also recognized that without full consequences, the fundamental dynamics would remain unchanged. In the end, I did not intervene. My parents accepted the plea deal and began serving their probation-performing community service at a local housing nonprofit, an irony not lost on anyone involved. The legal proceedings concluded 6 months after that fateful dinner, when my parents first demanded my house. They avoided jail time, but received 3 years of probation, 200 hours of community service each, and were ordered to pay restitution covering my legal fees and security system installation. The court also mandated counseling and imposed a restraining order preventing them from coming within 500 feet of my property. News of their plea deal spread quickly through our extended family and their social circles. Some relatives stopped speaking to me, entirely convinced by my parents' version of events. Others reached out privately, sharing stories of similar manipulative behavior they had experienced over the years. My Aunt Teresa, my mother's sister, called to tell me she was proud of me for standing my ground. They have always been like this, she confided. I watched them favor Jake from the beginning. I should have said something sooner. Jake and I remained estranged. He refused all contact, blaming me for destroying the family and subjecting his children to the shame of having grandparents with criminal records. Maria occasionally sent photos of the kids or brief updates, always without Jake's knowledge. Through these limited exchanges, I learned they had purchased a home of their own in a neighboring town. Apparently, having found the resources once acquiring mine was no longer an option. My father's business suffered initially as news of the case circulated in the local business community. He was forced to step back from public-facing roles, with longtime employees taking over client relationships. My mother lost her real estate license due to the fraud conviction, a professional consequence that seemed to hit her harder than any other aspect of the situation. 3 months into their probation, the text messages started. First, from my mother. We are struggling financially without my income. Any chance you could help with a loan? Then, from my father, the business is at risk. We might lose the house. Can we discuss options? I did not respond to these thinly veiled requests for money, recognizing them as yet another attempt at manipulation. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned their financial problems were largely self-inflicted, stemming from years of overextending to maintain appearances and subsidizing Jake's lifestyle. The most surprising contact came 8 months after the plea deal, when both my parents emailed on the same day with similarly worded apologies. The timing coincided with a probation review, leading me to suspect their counselor or probation officer had suggested making amends. The messages expressed regret for how things had unfolded, but stopped short of acknowledging the deliberate nature of their actions or the lifetime of favoritism that preceded them. I responded to both emails with a brief message: I appreciate your apology, but need time and evidence of real change before considering rebuilding our relationship. The space created by their absence from my life allowed for reflection and healing I had not realized I needed. Without the constant undercurrent of trying to earn their approval, I found myself making decisions based solely on my own values and desires. I redecorated my home, choosing colors and styles that pleased me rather than anticipating my mother's criticism. I took a promotion that required occasional travel, something I might have previously declined, to remain available for family obligations. Most significantly, I began forming deeper connections with friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide or how I reflected on them. These chosen family members celebrated my successes without jealousy and offered support without expecting submission in return. 1 year after filing the police report, I received a letter from my parents' counselor, sent with their permission, inviting me to participate in a facilitated family session. After discussing it with my own therapist, I agreed to a single meeting on neutral ground. The session was uncomfortable, but revealing. My parents, under the counselor's guidance, acknowledged specific, harmful patterns for the first time. "We did favor Jake," my mother admitted. "We told ourselves it was because he needed more help, but that was not fair to you." My father, less willing to concede, still managed some honesty. "I saw too much of myself in you, independent, capable. I pushed you away because I did not know how to connect with that." These admissions did not instantly repair our relationship, but they opened a door to the possibility of a new, more honest one in the future. We agreed to limited contact monthly emails, potential for supervised visits after 6 months, contingent upon continued counseling, and respect for boundaries. As for my house, it truly became a home during this period of upheaval and recovery. I planted a garden in the backyard, adopted a rescue dog named Cooper, and created a space that reflected my journey. The security system remained a practical reminder of lessons learned about trust and boundaries. The most profound change, however, was internal. I no longer measured my worth through my parents' eyes or compared my life to Jake's. I recognized that true family, those who genuinely care for your well-being, might include blood relations, but must involve mutual respect and support. Sometimes protecting yourself from toxic family members is the most self-affirming choice you can make. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who tried to take advantage of you? How did you balance maintaining boundaries with the pressure to forgive simply because they were family? Share your experiences in the comments below. I read them all and find strength in our shared stories. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more experiences that might help you navigate your own family challenges. And if you know someone struggling with toxic family dynamics, share this with them as a reminder that they deserve respect and have the right to protect what is rightfully theirs. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that creating a healthy life sometimes means having the courage to say no to those who cannot respect your boundaries, even when those people are family.